So, good morning, everyone. My name is Nghiem Van Khanh, and today I would like to present our research entitled Urban Planning Governance for Low Emission Zones in Hanoi Current Status and Capacity Building Solutions. Members include Vũ Trung Kien and Nghiem Van Khanh. The presentation consists of four main parts. The first part is introduction, then current status of urban planning governance for low emission zones in Hanoi. The third is survey results, and the last is proposed solutions. First of all, we want to talk about Hanoi Low Emission Zone overview. Formally introduced in the 2024 Capital Law, LEZs, also known as Low Emission Zone, provide the legal framework to restrict polluting vehicles and to combat Hanoi's severe air crisis, where poor to very poor PM 2.5 levels span 30% of monitored days. Beyond improving public health by cutting transport, industrial, and domestic emission, LEZs drive climate commitments, optimize resources, and enhance Hanoi international competitiveness and livability. Successful execution is currently bottlenecked by fragmented intersectoral coordination and lack of ununified governance mechanism to manage planning and sustainability targets. The first picture depicts annual average PM 2.5 concentration map for 2023, results from simulations of pollutant transport between districts in Hanoi. And the second picture depicts the current reality of air pollution in Hanoi, come from source of Vietnam government portal Hanoi Capital. The next part, we want to talk about the current status of urban planning governance for LEZ in Hanoi. The first part is urban planning governance. Hanoi has approved 59 general and zoning plans and 216 detailed planning projects covering more than 14,115 hectares, along with 35 planning regulations to improve transparency and to ensure better control of spatial development. Looking ahead, the city is transitioning toward a polycentric urban model, aiming to balance economic growth with environmental protection. And at the same time, it has laid a strong foundation for sustainable development by establishing green belts, ecological corridors, and satellite cities, which will serve as the structural framework for future smart, green, and low emission cities. Despite these achievements, several challenges remain. First, the implementation of urban plans is often unsynchronized, as delayed execution and fragmented local planning adjustment have led to spontaneous development that does not align with the original planning vision. In addition, the satellite city model has not yet been effective in reducing pressure on the urban core, resulting in a high concentration of population, infrastructure, and emission in our inner city. Finally, public transportation is still in its early stages of development, and the lack of a well connected transit network has slowed the crucial shift from private vehicles to public transportation. Next, we want to talk about the current status of low emission zone planning implementation in Hanoi. As you can see, these four pictures depict LEZ planning implementation. Phase 1 is pilot implementation in Han Kim Ward. The second phase, which happens in 2027, is the expansion to include Ge Nam Ward. The third phase, prolonged from 2028 to 2029, is the expansion to the entire area within Ring Road, and with the 2030 vision is to complete cessation of motorcycle operations in all urban wards. Hanoi has prepared infrastructure to support the LEZ pilot. The city has developed 20 parking facilities for automobiles and motorcycles and plans to establish around 80 parking lots for within the Ring Road number 1. In addition, surveys have been completed for the installation of battery swapping cabinets, electric vehicle charging stations, and integrated charging facilities in underground parking areas. To promote sustainable mobility, the city is expanding its green transportation system. Currently, the public bicycle sharing program includes free stations with 50 bicycles, supported by 10 nearby stations offering approximately 180 bicycles. In the near future, the system is planned to expand with 30 to 35 additional rental stations and 250 to 300 bicycles and electric bicycles, making green transportation more accessible to everyone. The last part is the current status and challenges of human resource for urban planning governance of LEZ in Hanoi. There are some needs including effective LEZ governance requires continuous capacity building for urban management officials at all administrative levels. The second is to develop flexible periodic training programs to strengthen professional competitions. And the last is to establish a network of urban experts to promote a knowledge exchange, collaboration, and international cooperation for sustainable development. Yet, it faced some difficulties. First of all, is the fragmented and unsystematic training programs, and it fails to meet the demands of rapid urbanization. The existing programs lack targeted design and interdisciplinary integration. And lastly, is the limited emphasis on strategic thinking, urban planning governance, and leadership capacity, reducing policy implementation effectiveness. Next is the survey results to the perceived necessity of urban planning governance. As you can see, there are 62.6% of managerial officials and 57.9 of technical staffs view urban planning governance as necessary, while 16.5% of managerial officials and 29.5% of technical staffs view it as less necessary. And lastly, 20.9% of managerial officials and 12.6% of technical staffs view urban planning governance as not necessary. As you can see, a minority of respondents still do not fully recognize the importance of urban planning governance. Comparative finding reviews several factors contributing to negative public perceptions of urban planning. These include inconsistent approvals of planning adjustment, a lack of transparency in planning information, and concerns about vested interests influencing planning decisions. And as a result, some respondents perceive urban planning governance as overly formalistic, bureaucratic, and ineffective, believing it is increasing administrative costs and creates unnecessary procedures. And by using the results of this survey, we have some proposed solution. First, we want to talk about the components of the proposed solutions. First of all, we want to establish an interagency coordination board for low-emission urban planning under Hanoi's People's Committee. Second, we want to provide specialized training for planning officials on emission reductions, GIS technologies, and green urban modeling. And last, we need to clearly define responsibilities of departments and agencies. The lead agency of this proposed solution is Hanoi People's Committee, and the coordinating agencies including Department of Home Affairs, Department of Planning and Architecture, Department of Construction, Department of Agriculture and Environment, universities, research institutes, and international organizations. And we have some implementation mechanism. First, in order to establish an interagency coordination board, we have to establish a board under the HANOI's People's Committee with representatives from key departments, universities, and research institutes. Next, we have to coordinate policy, monitor emission targets, strengthen international cooperation, and conduct progress reviews. For specialized training programs for planning officials, we have to organize periodic training in collaboration with universities and organizations. Next, we have to focus on GHG emission, GIS, green urban modeling, and emission impact assessment. Also, we have to apply blended learning with certification. And last, we have to have the clear assignment of responsibilities. The first thing we have to do is to develop a coordination framework defining agency responsibilities. Next is to assign key tasks. The planning and architecture task is needs to integrate and monitor emission targets. The agriculture and environment um, agency has to update emission inventories and database, while the constructions have to promote green buildings with low emission building. And lastly, we had to require regular reporting and public disclosure of results to ensure the effectiveness of this mechanism. So, in conclusion, easy governance is the pivotal factor for sustainable urban development and climate resilience. Strengthening management capacity is the key determination in reshaping the urban landscape, and it requires a unified mechanism and active intersectoral coordination in order to succeed. And that's the our presentation. Do you have any question? We are willing to answer.